What do they want from working with you? Do they have a family? All these people are mother, brothers, fathers, sisters. They're human, just like you. They might have had a good day, they might have had a bad day. So when you understand what motivates them, it's simply a matter of positioning and framing it at that point. And most importantly, you need to know what motivates you. Because as soon as you sell yourself on being good at sales, you'll be amazing.
All right, everybody. That was Miss Aleasha Bahr, internationally renowned sales coach, and addressing the crowd there. And we are so lucky to have her here today. You can see her there, Miss Aleasha. Go ahead and say hello, and yeah, just introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Kevin. And I'm so excited to meet your audience and help them however I can. Sales doesn't have to be hard. Most people are making it more complex than it is. As you saw in the video, you're already selling all the time.
Yep. Yeah, even if you don't realize it, it's kind of sales, and sales, is like you are always known for saying sales is not a dirty word, because we do it all the time. I mean, when we're talking to our spouses and we want to get that new cool thing, you're
Yeah.
selling like, oh, honey, guess what I can do with that new drill? I can build
Yeah.
that bookshelf you wanted.
Exactly.
You're
What's in it?
always the value proposition.
What's in it for them?
Yep.
That is what you talk about.
Awesome. That is so true. So, and yeah, I mean, I totally understand, sales is not a dirty word. It's a necessity, whether you're an entrepreneur working for yourself or whether you're working for a company and you want to earn more money, get the promotion, take your career to the next level. So definitely, yeah, sales is a tremendous skill to have. We had some people jumping in on the comments there. So, hi, Bray, thank you. And yeah, like I said, we have Aleasha Bahr here. And so, Aleasha, I follow some of your skills or your tips for training. And one of the things that you talk about is authoritative empathy. Can you go ahead and explain that for our viewers here?
Okay, you're back.
Yeah, it froze up for a second there, but yeah, I just was talking about how I pay attention to what you teach, and one of the subjects that you talk about is having authoritative empathy, and so
Yes.
maybe you could speak on that from a sales perspective. How that would apply in real life situations, or and in real life sales situations.
Yeah, so authoritative empathy in general is something that is so powerful in sales and life and so undervalued. Everybody responds well to it because there's this deep need as humans to just feel heard and understood. It's that need for connection. And when you feel like somebody understands you, you feel like they can help you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, like you get me.
Yep.
So actually, empathy can help in every area of your life, like getting your romantic relationships, getting your kids to listen to you better. Um, like when you're talking to your family. Honestly, I was doing this earlier today, a practice run, with somebody who was just learning about it, and it's so important to know that empathy is not me too.
Mm.
So a lot of people think like that they just say, "Oh yeah, me too. I did that too. I do that too." My grandma does yoga also. And it just doesn't it feels like a gimmick
Hmm. It's
when you
not
say me too.
authentic. Yep.
It's not. And everybody sees through it. So people are savvier than ever. And like it's just transparent. You can't
Hmm.
get away with little gimmicks like that or like parroting it back to somebody like exactly what they said. That's not empathy either. Or just saying like I understand is not empathy. So empathy is actually putting yourself in someone else's shoes and thinking about what it would feel like to be there and then saying it. So the like role playing scenarios that I was talking about today, we were talking about if to his girlfriend, if he was or his fiance, if he was late, and she was mad because she made dinner for a certain time,
Hmm.
and he was just like, I'm really sorry, I was working. Like, sorry.
Yeah, that's zero
It
empathy. It comes across as rude a little bit, you know?
it's like you're not really sorry, but if you're like, I know that you made plans and you put in effort for a certain time, and there might have been things that you didn't do or pushed off so that you could have it ready in a certain time. And that's really frustrating. And I'm really sorry. And then the authoritative part is getting to the other side of it. So, empathy, just empathy alone is like, hey, that sucks. And here's why. Especially naming a feeling word. So, that's scary. That's frustrating. That was probably discouraging. And then the authoritative part is moving them to the other side of that, like the hope of it. So it's not just living in the pain and the bad stuff. It's saying like, but next time I will text you to update you that I'm going to be late.
Hmm.
So there's that hope that like it's going to be better on the other side. That's a personal example, but it's very easily applied in business as well. Somebody who's had a bad experience with a graphic designer, let's say. I I felt like they didn't understand what I was saying at all. And then they charged me for every revision. And it took a lot longer. And the communication, I've tried at least three different designers. And you could say that's really frustrating. And not unusual in our industry. There are a lot of graphic designers who are really bad at communication. So I'm sorry that you had that experience. We have a direct line, that we have a promise where we answer within 24 hours. And if we don't, then you get your money back or whatever.
Right.
So the authoritative part where you can assure them that that's not going to happen to them, and they feel like it just feels better to feel understood.
It's not going in one ear and out the other, you know? You heard their concern and you were like, I definitely understand, and here's what we can do going forward to make sure you don't have that experience again. And like you said, it works even with the spouse. It works with, working cohorts. Like you said, with the spouse situation, honey, I'm really sorry. I can tell that you put a lot of effort into this dinner, and you wanted it to be special, and I took that for granted. And not only am I sorry, but next time I'm going to text you earlier. I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be running late, so that way, if you are planning something, I don't want to miss it. Yeah,
You can't be mad at that. I can
yeah,
tell you put a lot of effort into this. Like, you're like, okay. And then they offer like a solution too. So it really is, saying more than like, I understand or I hear you or whatever. It's offering additional insight that lets them know that you actually do hear them. Like, and it's not even necessarily saying you've been in the same situation, but like, I can imagine that that was really disappointing.
yeah. And that's where that empathy comes in too. Is it's like I understand if I put all that work in, you know, I I wouldn't want you to miss it because it feels like I would feel like it didn't mean anything to me. So
Nice. You went deep there, Kevin. Yes, exactly.
awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
So and those are excellent. And there again, and I'm sure you talk about this a lot too. It's where sales kind of is life because it's
Yeah.
communication, it's relating, it's if you're in a debate with somebody like without authoritative empathy, how are you going to bring them into your view? How are you going to or even maybe the other way around, like how are you going to meet in the middle to resolve a thing, whether that thing is a sale and closing the deal, whether that thing is with your kids or your spouse. Absolutely right.
Well, if you
Amazing.
do empathy with your kids and your spouse, like you'll see them. Then all of a sudden, you're like in the scenario with your wife where you're late. She's like, "Oh well, thanks. Like I'm sure that you didn't want to be late," and all of a sudden, she's empathizing with you. It's just like
Yeah.
it's a magic solve
Yeah.
for any situation.
I think my kids would be like, Dad, you're 95% authoritative, 5%. But, I try to use empathy because I always try to never be detached from when I was 15 and 17, even though I'm far detached from it now. But,
Yeah.
I try to remember what it was like and use that
It was a
empathy.
weird time. Your
Oh,
world was tiny.
everything was
Little things
awkward.
Yeah, little things that didn't matter were big deals.
Hmm.
Like, you would, and the things that really do matter weren't big deals.
Yeah.
You were just like trying to figure out your way.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So, also one other thing, if we have time for this, the friend zone is another one of the points I've heard you touch on in regards to
Yeah.
selling, and you know, uh, explain that to me because I haven't actually heard. Like I've just seen it high level. I haven't
Oh.
actually
Oh,
heard how
okay,
that
yeah.
goes.
So this is so common. It's if you've ever had a really great conversation with someone and you're like, oh, it went so great, fantastic conversation, and then they do not buy from you, and you're like totally shocked. Like we had such a good conversation. You were friend zoned. So a lot of people feel most comfortable in the rapport part of the call, which is the part of the call where you're just like shooting the shit.
Mm-hmm.
um just like, oh hey, talking about like what the weather is, although I really dislike that
Terrible,
small talk
terrible.
starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. um or like talking about whatever, and all of a sudden it's like you have so much in common and you have this great conversation and you're spending 20 minutes talking about it, and then most of your meeting's over already, you don't have a lot of time left, so you like talk a little bit about what they're going through and what their goals are. But if you reflect back on the conversation, you'll see that you weren't talking, like, although you were a friend, they didn't get the feeling that you were an expert that could
Yeah.
help them.
And I always think associate that with kind of like I always try to control the conversation. It's probably not the best way to look at it, but like to me, like building rapport is super important. But one, you got to be authentic, but you can't let it get off the rails. You've got to
Totally.
bring that rapport full circle into where's the business. Where am I gonna help this person? What need am I gonna fill? You know,
Yeah,
otherwise, like you said, you end
exactly.
up with a 30-minute conversation about how the Dodgers won the series, and
Yeah, and it feels great. Oh, and I went to this Dodgers game, went back in '87,
yeah.
and I was there for the blah blah blah. Yeah. So, I call it the rapport hole.
Hmm.
And I always say, like, rapport should not go any longer than 5 minutes. So that's really the longest it should go. And it is a very important part of the sales conversation. You're right, Kevin, because it establishes that we're humans.
Hmm.
We're just two people. I'm not a gross salesperson, and you're not an annoying, skeptical buyer. This isn't a gross we're just people.
Yeah.
And we have lives and interests and memories. And so it like reestablishes that connection, and it makes the whole call a lot more fun, honestly, to have that instead of just this, what are you going to pitch me? What are you going to sell me thing? So people like to live there because it's safer and cozier and it feels better. Um, they just need to get comfortable with the rest of it, though. The rest of the call shouldn't feel bad either. The person is expecting to learn about your services and is hoping that you can solve them. They
Yeah.
don't want to waste 30 minutes of their life for
A-
nothing. But um,
Absolutely.
one of the ways to get out of the rapport hole is to, say, oh, well, I could tell we could talk about this forever, but I really want to respect your time.
Absolutely, and that's a respectful way to get around that. One of my clients and one of the people in the chat said, Bray Kelly said, I despise getting friend zoned by potential clients, and it is, especially when you work for yourself. Bray, it does tax prep among other things, and
Yeah.
it's probably a big challenge for any new small entrepreneur because you don't want to feel like like you say, sales isn't a dirty word. You don't want to feel like a pushy salesman, but you don't want to over over build rapport, and
Yeah,
yeah,
like they don't need a friend, they need somebody to help them.
yep,
So they want to buy from somebody who's going to help them. So it's not just new people. I know lots of salespeople who this is like their sales strategy is just being friends with everybody. And it's like you miss out on a lot of business with that approach.
yep,
It's like,
you do.
oh yeah, that guy's so nice. Like maybe I'll throw him a bone
And
here
that's
and
not
there.
what you
Because
want. You're not
no,
looking for charity.
they want to feel like they can trust you with all their business.
Absolutely. Yep. And yeah, and that's where a statement like what you said, like, hey, we could talk forever about this. I really love that subject, but you know what? Your time is money, and I want to help you make some. So let's
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So let's get into it.
yeah,
Yeah. What's up? What's going
yeah,
on?
yeah. And I'm always a fan of that. Just bringing it back full circle. Because I think naturally as salespeople we're talkers, and I know
Yeah.
myself I can be wordy, you know.
Well, and the number one thing, like even if it's really bad, because there are some people who just do not stop talking and it's really hard to get in a word. And in those situations, you can actually just say, like, I'm so sorry. Can you hold on 1 second?
Oh man,
You don't need to tell them why.
you know what? I did phone sales. I think I've talked to you about this before. And the whole works great. Can you hold one
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
And just
You
like
come back,
10
it's like a
seconds.
reset.
Yeah.
It's a like where were we? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this, da, 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 da. So,
And
yeah, there are people who just do not stop talking. And then there
Yeah.
are people who you can't get anything out of.
Yep. And then that's where even that authoritative empathy thing can come in, because you need to wear a lot of hats. You need to know how to pull information out of the ones that don't want to open up and limit the ones that do.
Yeah,
Yep.
true sales is like being very agile.
Yep.
I work with a girl who says it's like a dance. You kind of like I I don't know. I get what she's saying, but I think of it more just like you got to be flexible. She also calls it her Mary Poppins bag. So like whatever's coming up, she's like, okay, I know where to take the conversation based on this. But that's as you get down the line. Honestly, if you're new to sales, just focus on helping them. Don't focus on selling them. Focus on understanding them. Like I said in that video, all you need to do is understand what the hell is going on and if you can actually help them. And then if you can, letting them know.
Awesome. So, one last thing. I'm having a lot of fun. We're not even too much into it, but I wanted to ask from a sales coach training point of view, just for conversation, because a lot of my clients and even people that are in the chat right now are, business to business people, like Bray and Daryl and them. Um, for me, if I will cold call. I know that that's sometimes like a dirty word too, or cold
Yeah.
talk to people, but I research their business, and like I want to know as much about their business before I call them as humanly possible. So that way, when I talk to them, like I said, I can control the conversation and I ask questions that I already know the answer to. But
Yeah.
do you ever find yourself researching clients, or how do you feel about that?
Well,
Like,
absolutely. So I was in corporate sales for 8 years.
mhm,
And then for 3 years, I had my own digital agency, which was totally B2B. So the best way, especially in a cold calling situation, but not even just a cold calling situation, like you really want to be efficient with somebody's time. So if there are answers that you could find by looking online, they're going to really appreciate that you've done that research. And I always liked coming with like an idea. So it's like, I see that you have this event coming up and it sounds so great. Like I love this and that about it. And we could really blow it up this way.
yep,
And most people want to hear an idea that's based on something that they already have going on or like an area, but you don't just tell. I also like to compliment somebody.
yep,
Like, I love how you're doing this, because a lot of times people will call and tell somebody all the things that they're doing wrong, but
not come with
or
a
even on
solution.
yeah, that like nobody wants to hear that they're doing everything wrong, like
Yep,
they're going to be kind of thrown off if you're like, I love how you're doing this and that, and there's opportunity here. that I could see that would really bring you more business if we just, did this and that? Like, would you be interested in hearing more about it? I just
Yep.
wanted to reach out
Yep.
and
That's a lot of what I would do. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that because, like I said, from a business to business standpoint, you always want to fill a need. And even when people reach out to me, so one thing that I do on my page, on my website, and on my Facebook page is I have the chat bot set up where it will ask questions.
yeah,
So I will get information even before I actually engage. And
yeah.
then behind the scenes, even if I'm watching the chat work in real time, I'm researching. I'm like, okay, here's the business, here's this person, like getting everything I need. And then that way, by the time it gets to the question in the chat sequence about, hey, let's talk, let's call, I have information like, okay, so I know what your business is. I
Well,
know what
you
industry
want
you
to
are.
yeah, you're talking about pre-qualification, which is very important. Like
Yeah.
it's respectful of both of your time to determine if it's somebody you can even help. And I mean, a lot of times this applies to their budget. So
Hmm.
you don't want to talk to somebody who cannot afford you. And like, it's not, they don't want to talk to you if they can't afford you either, you
Because that
know?
just makes them feel bad, or
It's like a waste of everybody's time.
yeah.
So, but that's not the only thing. So, but that's the most popular one that you usually want to check before talking to somebody. But like, if they needed something that you didn't do, like what if they wanted, I don't know, like a physical house design or something?
Right.
You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's not me. Let me point you somewhere else.
The
So,
the biggest one I get personally is do you do Facebook ads? Because they see me
uh,
posting all the time, and it looks like
um,
ads, but I don't ever run ads. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't do ads. I'm not a marketing person. But
yeah. So, like, rather not have a whole huge conversation about that.
yep. And sometimes the feeling I get, and this kind of puts me on the other side of it, is that, like, so if someone reaches out to me about running ads, especially a random person, my thought is like, you see my services, like they're there, like, did you not do any research?
Well, that's another great point. And not all prospects are good prospects. A lot of people are just like throwing stuff at the wall. Like that
Yep.
person is probably not the best prospect.
Yep. Yeah, Daryl says that pre-qualification is very important. It is, because like Aleasha said, you don't want to waste your customer's time or a potential customer's time or your time, and it's important too. I think from a sales standpoint of like, let's say you determine through the pre-qualification process or in your conversation that you can't help that person, you always still want to be as respectful as possible of their time and feelings. They're be as respectful as possible because you don't know if that could be a business opportunity in the future. They might come away from it saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, you know what? Yeah, you didn't help me here, but you told me why you couldn't help me, and I respect that, and so I want you to do this instead."
Well, also referrals. Like
Yep.
I always say, I hate just saying like, "Oh, can't help you, bye." I always like giving them a resource.
Hmm.
Have you looked at this? I could point you to this person. Would you be interested? Et cetera, et cetera. Because those people do come back later or they refer you.
Yep. Absolutely. So true. And referrals are huge in the sales industry. Nothing better than word of mouth advertising.
Truly nothing is better.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I live for referrals. Most of my work has been off of referrals of some sort or another.
Well, and
Um,
as a consumer, I live for referrals. I'm like, who do you know? I don't want to waste my time, you know?
yep, yep. And I tell people too. I'm never afraid to ask for referrals. I'm going to tell people what
Yeah.
my incentive
Good.
is.
So many people are like weird about that.
Yeah, and
So
and
good.
I am not. I hate to say unashamed, but like if I do a good job on their website or their logo, I will say, hey, you mind leaving me a review here? And also, if you know anybody that needs a logo or needs a video or needs a website, you send them my way. I really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
I show my appreciation with a little referral bonus. you
Yeah.
know. So uh,
Absolutely. Let people know. I mean, if you did a good job for them, they're going to want to refer you. I've never had anybody be offended at me asking that.
yeah. So one of the comments from Bray says, "I feel like I'm naturally a friendly person, but I definitely need to learn to control the conversation."
Don't get friend zoned. Yeah, if you're a naturally friendly person, then it's especially easy to fall into that rapport hole with somebody because it's like what you're used to and comfortable with.
Hmm.
But just focus your friendliness on helpfulness.
Yep.
So let me find out how I can help you. Like tell me what's going on and genuinely being curious and digging into it as if you were talking to a friend who thinks that their like boyfriend's cheating.
Yep.
I mean, you're going to be like, "Well, what did he say this time?" "Well, where was he? What time did you want to be like that inquisitive with your prospect because there you will eventually get a picture that will just trigger your expertise. You'll say all the right things.
Yep.
You won't even have to think about selling them. You'll just be like, "Oh, I know what's happening. Oh, okay. So you want this, that, and the other. And this is what, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying." And you won't have to think about it so much. Just focus on that friendliness to like helpful curiosity.
And I think that naturally friendly people are that way. Like, you know, if you can take that natural friendliness and shift it to helpfulness, like, hey, yeah, dude, I am so glad that you reached out to me. You know, what's going on? How can I help you today? What need can I fill? You know,
Yeah.
and then
Where are you
bring
stuck?
it.
What's
Yeah.
your challenge? And you want to ask more about that. Because I mean, for example, like in agency services, when I was a digital marketing agency for a while, like people would be like, "Yeah, well, we just had this, terrible time. We didn't get any leads. We hired somebody to do SEO and we got no business for 6 months." And it's like, "Oh, well, did they tell you that it was going to take 6 months? Because SEO usually takes a lot longer."
Yeah.
No. Okay. So it sounds like there was a bit of a communication issue there. Like you can kind of dig into what really happened and then say, "Well, if what you're looking for is leads right now, I would really suggest paid search. Has anybody suggested that to you?" So that inquisitiveness into figuring out what's going on so you can help them have a different experience. But if they're like, "I did paid search and it was garbage too," then it's like, "Okay, great. Let's not go down that path. Let's ask about social or email or, just
Yeah.
that genuine curiosity of uncovering the whole picture
Yeah.
will sell when someone asks the right questions, you're like sold kind
Yep.
of, right? You're like, "That's a great question."
I don't remember where I learned it from, but and it goes along with what you're talking about, and you know, transitioning from that helpful friendliness to uh, closing the deal is making a needs-based offer based on the questions you asked about the need. You know,
Yeah.
so like, hey, they reaching out to you, and you know, you want to be you want to be friends with them, but you don't want to get friend zoned. So make that conversation about being helpful. So
Yeah. Helpful. And if you're like not sure how to ask for the business, you want to find out what their timeline is for this. Um, if it sounds like, is there anything, I always like to ask at the end, like, is there anything missing that you wish was included? And if not, then let's do this. Like, it's exciting.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah. Asking for the business is as easy as saying, "Let's do this."
yeah, I you know, a lot of times I assume the sale. I just like, you know, hey, so when do you want to get started? You know, I know that we
Yeah.
can help, especially after you've interviewed and you've had this conversation and you've determined that, hey, I can help. You know,
Right.
then
Like,
I assume
when,
it.
yeah, when do you want me to help? It's just like, okay, great. Like, I would clarify their goals. I would recap
Yep.
what happened and then say, "Do I have that right?" "Okay, great. When do you want to do that?"
Definitely. That yeah, just assume the sale at that point because you've already built a relationship. You've already found the need and you know made those assessments. So that's a
It's just
very
natural.
good. Yep,
It naturally makes sense.
awesome. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, any of the people in the chat here, go ahead and you know comment your questions. You know, Alicia's super gracious with her time to let us chat with her. So, but yeah,
Yeah, I love providing the relief of a direction.
yep,
sometimes people just
And
feel really hung up on something.
now might be a good time if you want. Tell us about what you have going on, like like your social media, I know I'm
Yeah.
working on your website currently, but full
Yes.
disclosure there. But yeah, I mean, what's going on? How can people reach out to you? How can, you know, how, yeah,
Yeah. So I am going to be having a master class on January 18th. 18th. Yes. January 18th. It's going to be on the secret art of subtle selling,
hmm
and it's completely free. And then I'll
sign
be
me up.
what?
I'm
Yeah,
I said, sign me up.
good. I hope so.
Yeah.
And then I'll also be releasing my course and coaching program. It's a combo program. But the way you're going to be able to see the master class is going to be in my group. Sales is not a dirty word
Remember that,
on
everybody.
Facebook.
It's an easy one. Just remember, sales is not a dirty word, and it is a very helpful group. Aleasha goes live in there, almost daily, and she is dropping literal diamonds of knowledge that can help out. And sometimes it isn't even about the knowledge, but also about the inspiration and the motivation to keep plugging along in your sales game.
Yeah,
Um,
mindset is so important. And there's nothing that I really hold back because if you're able to get results from some of the things that I tell you, then it's like imagine if we work together.
Right, right. So remember, sales is not a dirty word. Is her group? She's got a master class coming up on January 18th. That's a free master class. I recommend it for anyone looking to grow their customer base, increase their sales. I mean, whatever your perspective is, you can gain from that knowledge. So remember that. Her business page on Facebook is Aleasha Bahr, just like her name. You can just search that in Facebook and it'll come up. Um, so definitely hit her up on her social medias. And Bray says, have you ever, this is from Bray again, she said, have you ever experienced a potential client who always just asks questions but is never ready to close the deal? How do you handle that?
That is really annoying. I'm sorry to hear that. So it depends if they are using you as like a free resource for knowledge, that is not going to stop. So you want to, whenever they reach out to you to talk about stuff, you want to say something like, what is this in regards to? Like, are you ready to start your project? Um, like you want to ask, like pre-qualify what the conversation is
Yep.
about beforehand. And if they're like, oh, I just have a couple questions about blah blah blah, you'd be like, okay, um at this point, you can even say that at this point, like I need to charge my hourly rate is blah blah blah, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
would you want to set something up? I'm happy to offer like free advice, but usually, at this point, God, I'm forgetting the wording. Like, I love helping people out, but it seems like you need a little bit more help
hmm
than what I've been able to offer just for free. So the best way for me to help you would be if we like booked a consultation that's this much an hour. Would you
Yeah.
be interested? I can send my link.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And that can also transition to closing the sale. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm really glad that you respect my opinion. You have great questions. How about let's take this to the next level? We can get everything taken care of for you. And, or like you said, if you're not ready for that, maybe we can have a bit of a paid consultation. So,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
advice.
I'll be able to help you a lot more with one of these other packages.
Yep. Or,
So,
like you said, I kind of like what you said there about booking the time too, because, hey, if you want, you can get an hour or a half hour of my time and we can sit down and talk and, here's what my rate is and, we can move forward. And if that option don't work for you, you can also sign up for this package and, yep.
Yeah, and like something like that. Or we've talked a few times now. It really seems like you need an audit where I would really be able to review and give you recommendations that you can move forward and implement. So you're talking about what's in it for them at that point and selling something bigger, but basically not meeting for free any longer.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what you're saying. Not meeting for free any longer.
And that's what's going to keep you kind of off that friend zone too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll eventually, as long as they're getting away with it, like you can't really blame them.
Yep. So sometimes you got to do like herding cats and like get them into the right place. Like, hey,
It's like a kid. If he knows that he can like scream and he'll get a Snickers bar, he's just gonna scream and get a Snickers bar every time.
yep, yep, absolutely. And great question too, Bray. Thank you. And
Yeah,
uh,
that's a common issue.
yep, definitely. So I'm not seeing a lot of other comments here. Like I said, definitely, hit up Aleasha on her social media. Check out her masterclass. It's free, nothing to lose. And you're going to get value from it, also from her group. So, if there isn't anyone else with any questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the live, and then we will, again, like I said, just hit Aleasha up on her socials, like and share the video. I will be posting this video, so yeah, that way you'll be able to refer back to it and, review anything that we went over here. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the live here now.